All right. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. We already got good more. Any more? Give me one in the back here. Good evening. Thank you for being here tonight. I really appreciate you all taking some time on a Wednesday. Who's turned this into a date night? Do we have some date nights? Couple right there, right here. It counts as a date night. You should know this. Yeah, but I thank you all for being here. Just a couple things to get out of the way. We only have 2 gender bathrooms here, so men and women. So if that doesn't work for you, I'm sorry. But I do appreciate you all coming out because this is going to be a fun conversation. It's a different type of format. We're not here with a podium doing speeches. We're going to be having conversations about the referendums in Quebec, Maxime Bernier's experience, his observations, his expertise, and what he saw going on there. The whole point of this particular series is to learn from what Quebec did in those 2 referendums, good, bad, and the ugly, because we want to make sure we do a good job on this one. They were really close in 95, and we don't want to have that situation. We want to maybe too big to rig type of situation here. Unfortunately, the Holmes family got stuck in Ontario. They were booked with WestJet. They had their, I'm not joking, that was unfortunate. The day before the first night, they said, we're stuck. And their first flight out is the 8th of August. So we'll rebook something with them. But I was able to reach my Rolodex and reach out to some friends. And tonight we have Ron Robertson from the Independence Party of Alberta. Absolutely, he's a good man. Dennis Kalma, who's been working on the Value of Freedom and the Alberta Transition Council. Maxime Bernier, leader of the PPC, good guy. And my name is Jason Lavigne, host of the Lavigne Show. Anybody here watch the Lavigne Show? Not bad. When I started this, there was like one or two. The rest of you haven't. Check out the card at the front there. So go see Paula. She'll give you a card. Check out the show. Ron has almost been on the show. I recorded with him. It'll be on soon. And everybody else has been on the show at least once. We do interviews, long form format. We get into conversations. Ben Trudeau, I want to say hello to him. He's been on the show once at least now. Yeah, I can see the claps for the Trudeau part. They're like, well... I just signed him a book, and I said, the only Trudeau I like. So thanks a lot for being here, Ben. And his book's available as well, because he takes a slightly different perspective that Alberta should enforce its constitutional rights, do exactly what Quebec's doing, maybe change our attitude, do more, ask less, kind of take the bull by the horns. We got a lot of them. Why aren't we doing that? So go ahead and have a conversation with Ben at some point as well, and I really thank him for being here. It's always a pleasure. And Wade from Sylvan Lake, I'm not sure if you've seen his pictures online. He's got that peace sign and literally everybody's campaign sign. The good story with him is he used to have Canadian flag on there, every province, fought strong for Canada, and then things changed. And now there's a lot of Alberta. You still have a Canadian flag, but we don't hate Canada, right? We're just very disappointed with the direction the government's going with it. There's no hate on our side.
I only put it up on Fridays when we do our pop-up.
Friday pop-up Canadian flag. But he has every version of mine as well. So thanks for all that support right across from the beach. Everybody gets to see it. And I want to say hi to one of our awesome volunteers, Vicky Bayford in the back there. She's hiding. Without volunteers, this doesn't happen. My wife and our kids and us, we travel a lot, but it's our volunteers that make it look easy and make this happen. And also a big thank you to the Westerner, one of the only venues that won't cancel events like this. So thank you to the Westerner as well. So I do want to remind you guys, these cards that we're handing out at the front, if you don't have one, a volunteer can get one to you. If you filled it out, just hold your hand up, a volunteer will grab it, or you can bring it here. This will be for the second half of the evening. Put down whatever. We've had amazing questions the last 2 evenings, and I wouldn't be surprised if you guys blow them out of the water. If we don't get to all your questions, don't worry. We scan them all and we'll send them to Max, and Max will come on the show in the future to kind of address anything we didn't address while we were on the tour. And then tomorrow night we're in Edmonton for our final stop of this Alberta tour. So if you have any friends up in Edmonton, let them know what you thought of tonight. You're free to take pictures, take video, post whatever you want. Happy to have you guys do that. And I'm looking forward to a very good interactive conversation with you all. And don't be afraid of the questions. You can write down anything. We had John Bolton yesterday, and one of the questions was, did you ride your bike to the event? The answer was no. But Max rode his bike from Quebec, so that was pretty impressive. But what we'll do is we'll get into this. We'll start with Max. He'll introduce himself, say a few things. We'll make our way down here, and then we'll get into some of the conversation about the lessons from Quebec. Merci beaucoup, monsieur.
Hello, everybody. Very happy, very pleased to be with you tonight. Like Jason said, there's no speeches. It's a little bit hard for me not to speak for 15, 20 minutes, but it's a conversation that we will have. And the title of this event is Lessons from Quebec. So we will have a discussion about secession, independence, what Quebec did, what can you do, but I will answer that in the Q&A a little bit more. Because in reality, the referendum, October 19, it is not about secession. It is not about separation. It is not about independence. It's about respect. It's about you guys. Because if you read the question is very clear. There's no yes or no. It's not a question, do you want Alberta to be a sovereign country, yes or no? Do you want to rip up the Constitution tomorrow, yes or no? That's not the question. What the Federalist camp, the coalition, the liberal conservative coalition is telling you, the vote October 19, it's a vote for separation. If you vote for not remain a province, but start the process to have a binding referendum on secession, that will be the end of the world. You won't have your pension anymore. They are using fear, like they did during COVID-19. So that's why the question is not about being a country, yes or no. The question is, do you want Alberta to remain a province of Canada, or should the government of Alberta to commence the legal process required under the Canadian Constitution to hold a binding provincial referendum on whether or not Alberta should separate from Canada? My advice to you is to vote to the second option, the commence option, the start option. Start the process for having a real referendum on the independence. Your question is like the question that we had in Quebec in 1980, our first referendum. I was 17 years old at that time, and that was a question to have a new deal with Ottawa, a negotiation. The yes side didn't win with 40% of the vote. And it took a couple of years, decades, to have the other real referendum on the independence, the one that you remember in 1995. I was 33 years old. And you may remember, you came to Montreal and you told us, we love you. Stay in Canada. That's important for us. I want to thank you for that. But right now, do you have Quebecers, Ontarians, or New Brunswickers that are coming in Alberta and telling you, we love you, we want you to stay? No, because they're not taking you seriously. You know, since the creation of Alberta in 1905 by a legislation from the federal government, they created your province. You didn't have the same rights as Quebec and all these other provinces at that time. All these other provinces had the right to control their natural resources. Not you. Your politicians, your provincial politicians fought for 25 years politically to have that right. And you were able to have that right in 1930. But still today, you can control your natural resources, but the federal government is there to block the development of your natural resources without pipeline, with climate change regulations and all that. Add to that the equalization formula. The federal government is taking your money and giving that to other provinces. Ontario, can you believe you're giving money to Ontario, Quebec, Manitoba, and all these maritime provinces? So the question is simple. The first option is the status quo, remain a province. Are you happy with the status quo? No. If you vote for that, you are telling Ottawa, everything is fine here. No problem. We are a province and it's okay. You know, you can go on and block the development of our natural resources. You can go on with equalization money. Everything is okay. But what Trudeau, Carney and Poilievre are telling you, you need to vote to remain a province. If you don't do that, it's the end. You cannot do that. But yes, can you believe Pierre Poilievre is an MP, the leader of the opposition, the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, elected here in Alberta, and is not there to fight for you, is fighting with Carney against you. So my advice is to vote to commerce and start the process for that secession that may come. And I know that you are independentists here. You're fed up. You said, Maxime, I would have preferred to have a real question on the independence, but that's not the case right now. You need to have a strong support, a strong support for the option 2. Because in Quebec, when we had our referendum in 1995, the one that the yes side lost, 49-51, the Fed, the Conservative, the Liberals, the NDP, they came to Quebec and they said, and a lot of promises. Everything will be okay. We'll give you more autonomy. And what happened after that? The lesson is that's worse right now. We have more interference in provincial exclusive jurisdiction now than ever. You know, we have the dental care program, daycare program, pharmacare program. It's all under exclusive provincial healthcare jurisdictions. So it's worse than it was. And all these promises, we had nothing. If you want to be respected, you need to have a strong support for the second option, start the process. So yes, we will have a discussion about the independence tonight. But I hope that you'll go tonight, when you'll go home, speak to your friend and your family. Yes, the one that are on your side, it will be easy to tell them go and vote. But the one that are saying, that are saying the same thing that Poliev is saying and Carney, no, I don't want a separation, tell them that it is not the question. That's not the question today. The question is about being respected and being treated equal like other provinces. So if you vote for the second option with a strong win, what will happen? You are giving a bargaining power to your premier. She will go in Ottawa and said, give me more autonomy. She will start the negotiation. If you don't give me more autonomy, if you don't stop the equalization, if you don't stop to block the exploitation of our natural resources, we will have a referendum on the independence. There's no risk there. Zero risk. If the negotiations are good, perfect, maybe you'll stay in Canada. If the negotiations are not good and the federal government is not giving you what you want, you'll have your referendum and you'll have that debate about the independence at that time. But it's important to be informed, educated about the impact of being an independent country. And we'll do that tonight. So it's a vote to start the negotiation. That's why there's no risk. You will send Danielle Smith sitting at the table with Carney, and she will be able to tell Carney, you know, my people, they're fed up. They told you that. You need to sit down. You need to give me that, that, and that, and that. And if it doesn't do that, you'll do the next phase, the second phase, the real referendum on the independence. So that's why you may ask Maxime, why are you, and I will end with that because it's not supposed to be a speech. Maxime, why are you supporting the process for a referendum on the independence? Because I don't trust these establishment politicians. And I can tell you that the negotiation after a strong yes to start the comments option will go nowhere. These politicians in Ottawa, they want more power, more control over your province, and they will, I'm pretty sure that Carney will say to Danielle Smith, do your referendum, you won't be able to win it. Quebec didn't win it, you won't be. So I believe that it will be with that bargaining power and that strong support for the process, I believe it will be very hard for Danielle Smith to have a good deal. And if she doesn't have a good deal, you'll have more arguments for the secession. You'll be able to come back and say to your people, we try. We told us, give us your best option, your best offer. And the best offer was nothing. So if it's that, you'll have your referendum. So it's a win-win. It's a win if you have a good negotiation and a good ending. You'll be able after that to decide if you like it or not. If a win if you have no negotiation, because you'll have your referendum. And it's important. So you can speak with these federalists that are afraid of separation and tell them today, this October 19, it's not about separation. You will have a time in a couple of months or years to vote on separation. And for the other one that are on your side, have that discussion, and we'll have that discussion tonight. What will be the impact of a sovereign Alberta? So the PPC is there for you. And what I'm telling you right now here, I'm saying the same thing in Quebec, Ontario. And when Quebec will have that referendum, because in Quebec right now, the PQ is in advance in the polls. We will have a provincial election 2 weeks before your referendum in October. I believe that the PQ will win. And the leader of the PQ, the young, charismatic leader of the PQ, Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, is speaking about independence before the election, after, and he told Quebecers that if you vote for the PQ, it's a vote for a referendum on the sovereignty, the independence. So we may have another referendum in Quebec in a couple of years. And yes, the People's Party will be there and support also the yes side, because we need to create a constitutional crisis to send that message in Ottawa: enough is enough. If you don't respect the Constitution, if you don't give more autonomy to Alberta, Quebec, Ontario, that will be the end of this country. And the People's Party is the last hope for this country. And that's why it's important what you're doing here. You have the power to change. You have the power to influence Ottawa. Use your power and do what is right for you and the province of Alberta, because it will be the best thing for this country. Thank you.
Now you have to do it again in French. Not here. Not here. No. Dennis, go ahead, bud.
Good evening. It's good to see you guys here today. I've been to Red Deer now a couple times on Independence Matters. And for background, I was the principal author of The Value of Freedom, which was the fiscal side of the equation, making the case that an independent Alberta is indeed a financially viable entity, and it is. I also was heavily involved with the APP. I was the editor of their draft constitution. Last time I was here with Jason's group, Bruce Party, Dr. Bruce Party, and Dr. Matt Rowley and I discussed the three basic models of constitution that we will consider when we are independent. And of course, those three are the libertarian model, as Dr. Party promotes, an enhanced Westminster system, similar to today, that Dr. Rowley promotes, and constitutional republic, which is the approach that I tend to favor. So that conversation will continue. Jason's setting up the meetings as we speak. But my current activity is working with Keith Wilson very closely, and I'm co-lead of the Alberta Transition Council. And the Alberta Transition Council is trying to answer a question that Max raised around, well, are we going to lose our pensions? Will we be able to get paid for the things that we deserve, for example, various healthcare benefits and so forth? And the short answer is yes, you will. But just saying that doesn't make it happen. There's a bunch of work required in order to make those things transition from the hands of the federal government and into the hands of the Alberta government. So we've got a team of about 40 people working right now, working on roughly 20 different subject areas. We call them domains: pensions, military, policing, borders, healthcare, all those kind of things, to draft up essentially the plan for how we would proceed once we win the independence vote, once we win the referendum that Maxime referred to, that we would start the process of taking over those services from the federal government and putting them under Alberta control. And there's a bunch of stuff in there. We're going to be releasing it roughly the middle of August. And the guts of it is going to say, here's a playbook for example, how you manage social continuity for spending as things like CPP, OAS, and AISH, and all those other things that are important to many people. So we're drafting those documents. They're actually all drafted but one. We're actually going out to reviewers, people who have not been involved with the work so far. but who have deep subject knowledge in any of those areas. So one of the things I would say is if you know people or you are one of those people with deep knowledge on things like trade and economic strategy or pension planning and pension payment, by all means, go to the Alberta Transition Council website. So it's albertatransitioncouncil.com and click the button to send us an email to say, hey, I'd like to be working with you guys to review a few of the white papers. Here's my background and experience, and we will get back to you. And that's going to make those papers stronger so we have really good and decent playbooks for how to proceed. So give you an idea of the size of this thing. Each of the 20 papers are roughly 30 pages each in small text. They include a budget, increased spending. They include, for example, what our negotiating position will be with Canada, where our fallback positions are, how many people are required to do this, what's the timeline required, all the detail that people want to see to answer the question, okay, we win the referendum, what exactly can we do, or what needs to be done to become independent? Now, one thing I would point out, people say, oh, it's impossible. No, it's not. To be truthful, there is nothing that we use from the federal government that is new to world. Every country in the world does passports. Every country in the world has budgets. Every country in the world has a healthcare system. And we just have to replicate those things in Alberta. In some cases, we will enhance a function that we have today in Alberta already, for example, taxation. In other cases, we will just use what's there today, for example, healthcare. In other cases, we'll set up the best alternative we can think of. So that's what's in those plans. And it's going to be a lot of work because there's a lot of moving parts required, but none of it's impossible. And none of it's even new to world at all. So we will be proceeding on that. Be released roughly the middle of August. It'll be put out as a draft for people to consider. And then you can go to your friends and neighbors and say, you know, you were worried about how exactly we would become a country after being a province since 1905. And you can show them the playbook that says, and this is how it will be handled. This is how your pensions will be paid. This will be how you handle the military matters, how you handle policing, all those kind of things, and ultimately, hopefully settle those problems that people are concerned about today. So I'm happy to answer some questions on that. We've been holding it pretty tight, but like I said, it'll be released in roughly a couple of weeks. Thank you all for coming here, and talk to you more.
How cool is that? There's a private group of people doing a lot more work on our future than even our own government. So thank you very much for you guys to do that. And just a reminder that over the last 50 years, at least 18 countries via a referendum voted for their independence, and Canada recognized it. So within Canada, they have a problem with self-determination. Outside of Canada, not a problem. They'll recognize it right away. So I like what you had to say there, Dennis, because there's many examples. It may feel foreign to us to create a nation, but this is not new to the world. It happens all the time with a lot less resources than we have. I'd like to introduce now Ron Robertson, the interim leader from the Independence Party, a good friend of mine, and thanks a lot for coming out to us, speak to us tonight.
Thanks very much there, Jason, and welcome everybody. It's nice to see everybody here tonight. How I got involved in politics, because I've only been involved in this party for just since 2023. And one of the things that I've never liked is politicians. So. How's that? Ah, there we go. Now I can even hear myself. So I got involved with the Independence Party in 2023, and basically I was voluntold to become a CA president in Leduc, which I did. And since then, I've moved on to become the president of the board of directors for the party, and ultimately taking on the role of interim leader. Pardon me. Now, my background is a policing background. I was 25 years with the Edmonton Police Service. I finished there as a detective working on special investigations on organized crime. Nothing's more organized in crime than governments. Although, unfortunately, our police agencies aren't allowed to investigate them, you know, because That's a big part of the problem. But there's a lot of things going on with our current government in Canada, and with the previous Liberal government under Trudeau, and it dates all the way back to his father, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, who infiltrated the Liberal Party of Canada because he found that to be the easiest way to bring in his beliefs, which were communist. It's taken decades and decades, but he's lined that party up to do everything that he had ultimately wanted. We are so close to the finish line right now. Albertans, if they want their freedom, need to vote to get out. And what we need is a political party, and I don't care if it's the UCP, if it's anybody else that'll get us out, but we need people committed to take the steps to get Alberta out. So, our party, we've been fairly silent, through this whole thing with the APP and their educational sessions that Mitch Sylvester and a lot of other people have undertaken. And there is reasons for that, because we don't want to interfere with the messaging. The time will come where, the politics will come into play. And hopefully by then, if the UCP changes its course, we would be a party that you wouldn't even need. We just join up with them or team up with them, because we'll work with whoever is going to work for independence, because we need Albertans to be free. Losing your freedom. I've got friends that escaped communist countries that are absolutely terrified every day here, because they see the changes happening over and over, and they don't know what to do. So, the people that have seen and lived under that type of regime, you have to listen to. They see it coming. If you pay attention to all the bills that the current government is implementing, they're bills that strip you of freedoms a little bit every time. And I'm sure everybody is, the big one right now is Bill C-9. And I mean, I have to say, with the social media that the Edmonton Police Service did soliciting complaints for hate crimes was absolutely disgusting. And whoever was behind that should be fired. That's not the job of the police to say, gee, you make a comment that, somebody should be deported, and that's a hate crime? No, it is not. So we need to really look at the organizations that are, holding power over all the citizens in Alberta. That's just one of the many, many things. So hopefully we'll get there, and get there soon, because we are running out of time. And thank you again.
If the Edmonton police are watching, I receive messages daily that are worse than what you guys are asking people to turn in, and not one of them reach out to me for protection. So this whole hate protection is very selective. I'm sure if you're Christian, you look like me, walk like me, talk like me, it's not for us, because I receive death threats and they don't care. So it'll be interesting to see how they roll this one out. Max, let me kind of get this kicked off with you. I'm seeing a pattern here, by the way. There's a lot of trust in Danielle Smith, maybe? I don't know. No, there's a pattern here, and we're going to get into this in a bit. But Max, as someone from the outside, first of all, thanks for coming, because getting an outside view is very helpful. When we're sitting here in Alberta, this is a bit of an echo chamber. We got our own thing going on. We know what we're doing, and plus we have a horse in the race, so we get very passionate about it. So as somebody from Quebec watching what's going on in Alberta, what are some of the things that we're doing good, and maybe a couple of the things that we're not doing so good, from your opinion?
Yeah, what what you're doing well, it's being here tonight. It's participating. It's all that movement that you created. In the press in Quebec, in French, they are following you. They are following what's happening in Alberta. Why? Because the elite journalists in Quebec are more on the independent side for Quebec. So they're very interested of what is happening here. But in English Canada, in the media, it's like, you don't do anything special, and anyway, you cannot be an independent country. So you're doing well, and I was very impressed when I saw on TV during the last winter all the signatures that you had for that referendum. That's a real grassroots challenge, and you are doing that pretty well. You are, for me, like in the beginning of the movement with René Lévesque when he created le Mouvement Souveraineté Association. In the beginning, that was not a political party. That was a movement like you. You don't have a political party at the provincial level, but elected, I must say, elected, who is fighting for your independence. You don't have that. And we didn't have that also in Quebec when René Lévesque created the movement, and after that, the Parti Québécois. So you are in a beginning process, but the process for you is very fast. And, when I'm listening, the transition period and all that, all the studies that you're doing to be ready for that real referendum on the independence, you're doing everything good. What I hope that it will be a little bit better, it's to speak to the Federalist one that you know about that vote right now. You need to tell them it's not, I know that you're frustrated because it's not a vote on the independence. You wanted that. But for me, it's a good test because you need to win that vote with a huge majority and you have the best arguments. For me, that's the best question. That question for beginning of an independentist movement, it's the best question. It's easy to vote for the second option. Like I said, there's no risk. So your job will be to go out there and to speak with your friends and the friends that are not independentists. Tell them, vote for the option for a binding referendum. But I want to, what you're doing and what I'm saying, it's very exciting. You are, creating history right now. In 20 years, in 25 years, they will remember we were here speaking about the independence. You are writing history, but do it well, like you started that. Be part of the movement, and you are here because you are part of that movement. Be the change. Speak. Don't be afraid to speak about what you believe. If you don't do that, you won't succeed. And yes, you need to have the courage of your conviction. And sometimes it can be tough to speak with a person that he is not or she is not independentist. But with that question, you have the best argument. Do you want to be respected? Are you tired? If you vote to remain, it's the same thing. There's no changes. At least you have a chance to improve the system and to have a better deal with Ottawa. And if it's not working, like I said, let's go to the second referendum. But congratulations to Jason and you have the social media also that the independentist movement didn't have in 1960s, 1970s. They didn't have that. Now you have podcaster, you have people who are speaking and informing you. So go and share everything that you find on social media to your friend and be that strong movement. It's very exciting, and I'm very honored to be here and to be part a little bit of that movement with you.
Just a quick question for you, Maxime. The Parti Québécois, they're specifically a party that is for independence. Like, that's their goal if they get elected. So I guess for those of you who don't know, the Independence Party here, that is what we were created for. And it's not a party, when you look at our party platform and you look at the way we operate and what our plan is, it's only for the transition of Alberta to become a nation if the Independence Party gets into power. we don't believe that, we should be the ones necessarily running the government. You have to decide what kind of country you want, what kind of system of government you want, and then it'll be up to the people to pick that government and vote on it. Is that the same thing that the Parti Québécois?
It's a very good question, because my understanding is the first principle of your party is to make Alberta a sovereign country. When René Lévesque created the PQ, the first principle was also for Quebec to be an independent country. But the second principle of the PQ at that time was for the PQ to be a good government. And that's important because through history, the secession was popular. When the secession and the separation was popular in Quebec, the PQ was speaking about that. They were the only nationalist provincial political party for the independence. But when they didn't win election and they tried to be reelected, and like after the referendum in 1995, the independence was not popular, people was not so happy, but they were depressed a little bit. And to try to win election, they used the second principle. No, the PQ will be a good government. We won't speak in our first term on independence. Our goal is to focus to be a good government. But doing that, before the young leader, Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, before him, the PQ was down in the polls. They were not popular. They had only three members of the National Assembly. And the new leader, Saint-Pierre Plamondon, during the leadership contest, before being the leader of the PQ, decided to speak just about the sovereignty. He said the PQ will focus on Quebec being an independent country. He did that. He was able to win the leadership. And after that, and right now, the PQ is first in the polls. And he said, I will speak about the independence before, after, and always, because that's the first principle of the PQ. So, a political party wants to be in power. And sometimes their conviction will be, just on the side to be sure to be in government. But with the PQ right now, the independence and the PQ is more popular than the option, than the independence. And he has the courage to speak about that, because if you look at the polls in Quebec right now, maybe the independence, it's about 30%, something around that. The PQ is about 38%. So he has the courage to speak about an option that is not popular. That's a real politician with conviction. And I believe that you will need that a day. Maybe you're not there. And like you said, your vehicle to promote the independence in Alberta can be your party or can be the United. And I was very pleased when a journalist in Quebec was at your convention, the convention of the United Conservative Party, the provincial party, the last one. And he wrote in a newspaper in Quebec that a majority was independentist in that party. So for me, stay in that party. You have that vehicle. And a day you'll be able maybe to vote the first principle that will be to promote sovereignty and being sure that Alberta will be a sovereign country a day. So that's important to have a provincial party that is speaking for you. And at the federal level, the People's Party will be there to promote that. And then the next election will have candidates all across the country. And I hope that you will support our candidates here, because they will be the one that we will speak in Ottawa, in Parliament, about your concern. And we'll tell them, if you don't resolve that for Alberta or for Quebec, that will be the end of this country. And that's your choice. And for me, I want to fight for Canada, but I know that right now, I don't like what I'm seeing from Poilievre or from Carney, so you need to shake the tree. you need to create a constitutional crisis to see what will be the offer. And if it's not a good offer, too bad. They had a chance.
And just to add to that, Max, with the PQ, if they took the steps for the province of Quebec to separate and become its own nation, if the federal government wasn't negotiating in good faith, would they be prepared as their own legislature to make a universal declaration of independence?
Yeah, that was what happened in 1995. If you remember, in 1995, in that referendum, Jacques Parizeau was the leader of the PQ and was the prime minister. And Jacques Parizeau was not so popular in the polls. And, you know, in the beginning of the referendum campaign, the yes side was not winning. But Bouchard came from Ottawa. He was the leader of the Bloc Québécois at that time. And he came and he campaigned with Parizeau. And Parizeau saw that Bouchard was very, very popular in Quebec. And so he decided to put his ego on the side, and he said to Bouchard, "You'll be in front. You're the most popular, and that's why you need a charismatic leader that will drive you." And he said to Bouchard, "You'll be the chief negotiator for during the transition period." And so Bouchard was very popular, and Chrétien was looking at that, and he was, I think, in the beginning, he thought that he will win it, like the Conservative and the Liberals are doing. Oh, we don't need to campaign, we will win that referendum. Chrétien was a little bit like that, until he saw the last 3 days of the campaign, the yes size was growing, and they were at 52, 51% in the polls. So they panicked in Ottawa, and they did that big love rally. I was there, 32 years old. I saw you on the street coming and telling you, "We love you." I didn't like that because I voted for the yes. You say, "Why? You're a federalist. You're in Ottawa." Yes, I believe in this country, but as a Quebecer at that time, like you today, I was mad. I wanted Quebec to have more autonomy. I was mad at the federal interfering in provincial jurisdictions, and I wanted to send a strong message. And you came and you said, "We love you," and that was very important. That was the turning point of the campaign, and the no side was able to win with 51%. So what I'm telling you is, answering your questions, after that referendum, the Parizeau was ready. Parizeau was ready to make a unit if the yes side would have been able to win with 51%, answering your questions. They were ready. They have legislation ready, like you're working on, and they were ready to pass a legislation and say Quebec is an independent country. Couple of days after the referendum, couple of months, negotiation. So they were ready to do that. But at the same time, if you want to be a country in line with international law, you have 3 conditions. The first one is to have a government. You have your own government, your provincial government. The second one is to control a territory, Quebec. Quebec with the borders, you have the same. You have a territory, Alberta. The third one, and it's an important one, to have international recognition, to have another sovereign country that will say after your unilateral declaration of independence, they will say, "Yes, I recognize them, they're an independent country." And Parizeau was ready. He did a couple of trips in Paris, and France was ready to say that the day that Quebec will say, "We are an independent country." And I believe that it will be easy for you to have international recognition also. So yes, answering your questions, they were ready to do that.
I really have nothing to add to the political side of these two fine gentlemen. I agree with what they're saying, but I would add some color and detail about what we're doing in the transition plan and the general approach we're using. First of all, we are examining 3 different scenarios for how Canada will react to a successful vote. The first one I call happy path. Canada says, "Oh, that's fine. You can go. Let's negotiate hard, and we'll shake hands and move on." That's not likely. I'm going to go to the third scenario, which is the worst one, which is we have no international recognition, and Canada gets very nasty and fights us on every inch of the way. That is a very difficult scenario to manage. The middle scenario is the one that we think is most plausible, and that is that Canada will be grumpy, they'll be unhappy, they will fight hard, they will delay, they will run us through the courts, whatever they want to do. But we will have international recognition, particularly from the Americans. I personally think, and I have reasons to believe it that I can't speak to, that we will have almost immediate recognition after winning a referendum from the Americans and probably about 5 or 6 other countries. And we will see those people say, "Yep, we recognize you." And then we do a fair thing. We do a reasonable thing. We have our transition plan ready. We know what has to happen. We know what positions we want to negotiate with the Canadians and say, this is the deal that's fair about property, about debt, about pensions, about whatever. We'll present those to them and say, all right, this is a fair deal. You have 60 days to respond. Yeah, that's plenty of time. You can come back with a counteroffer. You can accept the deal if you want. We can discuss, but we're not going to run through your courts. We're not going to have endless meetings with bureaucrats arguing and debating, every last detail and every last dot and comma. Because after 60 days, we're going to say, that's enough. We're going unilaterally to declare independence. And then I can say, because I've been working on this for the last couple of months, we will be ready to do transition.
That's the correct use of the word transition, just to be clear to everybody. That's one we all can get behind. Max, another question here before we get to the Q&A portion. The leader of the opposition, Poilievre, he's an MP from Alberta. He's got 30 plus other MPs. It changes from time to time. They cross the floor, so it changes from time to time. But wouldn't it be an incredible amount of leverage to go into the House of Commons against Carney and say 30 plus of us are representing an entire province that's talking about leaving? And wouldn't that be something he could use through negotiation, through the House, and through the opposition power that he has in order to pull some of that leverage before even the referendum? If that's the case, why is he not doing that?
That's a very good question. And yes, Poilievre and all his MPs from Alberta must be in Ottawa and said to Carney, I understand and I know Albertans. They're not only frustrated, they don't want only respect, they want to be treated equally and fairly in the Confederation. And that's why our MPs, and maybe that must be the same also for the MLA, our MPs will support the process or commence the process. That will help, that will give good leverage, that will help you to have a better score at that referendum and good leverage. The second part of the question, why is not doing that? You know the answer better than myself. How many seats in the big GTA? More than in all Alberta. So Poilievre is not doing politics by conviction. Poilievre is not a leader. He is a follower and is following the public opinion that has been manipulated by the mainstream media. Poilievre wants to be in power. He is a career politician. His end goal is to be Prime Minister of Canada, and he will do everything to be Prime Minister of Canada, and to do everything because of the Confederation and the population is in Eastern Canada. There's more seat over there, and so he is taking your vote for granted. It's easy. I have all the votes in Alberta. There's no competition. I don't mind, I don't fight for Albertans, and it's okay for them because they're voting for my MPs, so there's no problem. So I will try to please Quebec, to please the maritime provinces and Ontario, and that's what he's doing. So So that's why, Poliev is with Carney right now in that coalition. And he said to his MPs, you need to support the Remain province, the status quo option. It's crazy. I'm coming from Quebec, and I'm telling you, I want to help you guys, and I will give you a scoop at the next election. If you are still part of this country, you'll have to vote in Ottawa in 3 years. We will have PPC candidates. I'll be here, I'll run here, and I will run here, and I will try to be elected. And our people in Ottawa will do what you want actually, what the MP from the Conservative Party must do today. We will do that. We will speak for that radical decentralization for you and for every provinces.
All right, we have a bunch of great questions. Thanks, everybody here. You did not disappoint. I'm going to kind of paraphrase this one that just came up. Currently, Quebec does not recognize the Crown. So this is something that Quebec did. They didn't want to recognize the Crown. They said no. And they also don't recognize the Clarity Act. So they have no intention of using the Clarity Act if they get to that stage. Is Alberta should maybe follow in those footsteps? What are your thoughts about those two things?
Jason can be a good lawyer because you always ask a question that you know the answer. And he's working hard. I want you to buy his book. I've read his book, and I did learn about Alberta and, about the Clarity Act. It was an act that was built and done and passed in Parliament to block a future referendum for Quebec or Alberta. So they're asking for, in that Clarity Act, if a province like you want to have a referendum on secession, independence, sovereignty, your question must be clear. We don't know what is the definition, but that question must be approved by Ottawa. And also maybe the Supreme Court will have something to say about the questions. And there's all block roads against your own autonomy. So yes, Quebec won't follow that. And I believe that here in Alberta, you must not follow that. And, it's not, if your government decide to do something, nobody can stop. Ottawa cannot stop with the Clarity Act. And you need to stay strong on that. What was the other part of the question?
You got them both.
Okay.
Back to the Crown.
The Crown I have, yeah. Do you know, I have a nice anecdote, but not a reality. Do you know why? It's very recent. If you are elected in Quebec, in the Assemblée nationale, you used to prêter serment, an oath to the Crown. But the leader of the PQ didn't like that. I won't do it. He was elected. He wanted to sit in the National Assembly, but he didn't do it. So that created a debate in Quebec. And so we had a discussion nationally in Quebec on that. And the government decided to change the legislations, and he won the debate. And now in Quebec, you're not obligated to swear to the king or to the queen. So it's an option. And that's what's happening in Quebec right now.
Yeah. Max disliked that word so much it wouldn't come out. So Dennis, this is kind of in line with the second option, is not using the Clarity Act. The first option you talked about, not the third one, but the first one was kind of working with Canada, kind of get a deal that would be following the Clarity Act. What's the Transition Council's, or more specifically, Keith Wilson's opinion on the Clarity Act?
Well, I think he'd agree with Maxime. I think that the Clarity Act is an act of Parliament. It's meant to obstruct and not facilitate, and I think you'd have to see us basically ignore it. Certainly if Canada said, okay, bring the question to Parliament, we'll debate it for 6 weeks, we'll make funny changes to it, and then maybe you can have a referendum, that's a total non-starter. So Keith's opinion, and I share it, it's the same one, is that we will follow the Supreme Court ruling, which gives us more options gets rid of the involvement of all these other parties, and we will focus purely on following that ruling and getting on with winning the referendum and then doing the transition.
Ron, I'm going to throw it to you because the Clarity Act is kind of like a post-nuptial agreement. So after you're into this relationship, then suddenly these new rules come. Can you imagine if a defense had to deal with new laws mid-trial because they didn't like the way it was going? So what are your thoughts about this post-nuptial type of concept?
Well, I'm 100% in agreement with Dennis and Keith Wilson, because I don't think that we should be following the Clarity Act. What is the most important thing that we need is to have people in the legislature who are prepared to raise their hands and vote in favor of a unilateral declaration of independence. Now, we can begin the negotiations with Ottawa, because I think we have to do that. I think it's important. And we don't want to leave and start a war between Canada and Alberta. I think the tensions will be there anyway when we take away their bank account. So, yeah, and so I think it's really important that we just, we don't play by their rules. Albertans, if they decide that they want out and they want to form their own nation, that's up to us. That's not up to Ottawa to decide. And it's not up to the rest of Canada. If you look at social media posts and you look at, comments on videos about these topics, you can always tell the Easterners, the elbows up crowd, because the hatred comes out. And, the threats and everything else. And you know what? I haven't seen an Albertan threaten anybody. We just want to control our own destiny, which I think is really important. We want our freedom most of all. And that the only way we're gonna see those things is by having a government in place that will be prepared to make that unilateral declaration of independence when talks with Ottawa go south.
So here's a great question for everybody. I'll start with Ron, work down to Dennis, and then end with Max on this one. And this is a common theme here, so if I don't get to your specific question, that's because it falls under this category as well. Can we trust Danielle Smith to negotiate for our real interests? Ron.
My simple answer to that is absolutely not. You know what? I heard a lot of things, and that came out of Mitch Sylvester's belief that she was on our side and she supported what we were doing, and that she, if we got the numbers that we needed to sign a petition, that we would get our referendum. She has betrayed every Albertan, because that doesn't just involve the people that signed the petition. It involves every citizen of voting age in this province. She has taken their rights away too. So can she negotiate in good faith on our behalf? I don't believe so, not for a second.
No, and to echo that, I don't think Danielle, whatever has happened to her thinking or whatever pressure she's been on, no longer is interested in the will of the people. If she was truly interested in the will of the people, as she said at one point, she would be totally neutral on this referendum question. She would not be proceeding with saying, I'll support the stay side. She would be neutral, and she's not. In addition, she's pursuing avenues like the MOU and carbon capture and all those miserable things that she said at the beginning of her term she would not support. There's nothing on her 9 points she has delivered. And you think, well, what's the point? Past performance is the best predictor of future success. Her past performance sucks. She's not delivered on anything. So I wouldn't trust her at all.
Yes, for me, from the outside, you know her better than myself. What I know from her, I know that she's working with Carney, and that's enough.
Oh, boy. I wasn't expecting that, so I guess I didn't know all the answers to my question. Actually, that wasn't my question, so I'm off the hook. Very similar one here, so we'll do it as well. We'll go with Dennis first because you're working on Transition Council. Ron, what is your expectation? Then Max, as somebody from the federal level, and Quebec, because this came up with Quebec as well, what would be the answer? What would be the share of the national debt do we have to take if we separate? The same question is asked twice here.
Well, this is part of the whole interesting debate around building a transition plan, because everyone starts from the place of we're just going to accept the status quo. On the debt, why would we incur or take on a share of a debt that was not incurred on our behalf? What makes population-based the right answer? What we're going to take the approach of is something along the lines of you show us the investments made in Alberta that incurred debt, and we will take on fairly those sums, those amounts. If you invested a bunch of stuff in crazy wind power out in New Brunswick, that's your problem. You take care of your own share. And it's going to be tough love kind of thing. But I think we have to proceed down those kinds of paths.
I agree with Dennis, because I think that the problem that we're facing here in Canada is the other provinces have gotten so used to Alberta paying the bill, they just expect us to. And I don't think Albertans should be footing the bill for things that the Canadian government has just literally pissed away. You know, the billions and billions of dollars that they've taken from us, and we've seen nothing from it. You know, we didn't agree to it. We've never had equal representation in Ottawa to fight anything. And I think it's just time, like Dennis says, we have to play tough love. You know, too bad, so sad. If you guys, you know, if your taxes got to go up in the East, tough luck.
You are used to pay for the rest of the country by the equalization formula. You know, for the last 62 years, you didn't receive any penny from the equalization formula. You're giving money to Ontario, Quebec, and the rest of the country. So I think you did pay a lot during these last 62 years. And at the same time, you are the engine, the economic engine of this country. So when you will sit at the table, you will have the arguments. You will be able to negotiate something. But the feds, the conservative and the liberals, will use that, oh, you cannot separate, it would be too expensive. It's never too expensive to control our own destiny, and you'll be able to have a fair deal. I'm pretty sure of that.
How many here have children who left the home and went out and did their own thing? Put your hand up. And what percentage of the mortgage and your credit card bills did you saddle them with on their way out? Your debt. Keep it. Quite frankly. What would be the consequence of an 80% vote of Albertans for the freedom on the 19th of October? If we hit 80%. Let's start with Max, and then we'll go to Ron and then Dennis.
That would be a big surprise for Carney and Poliev. And anybody, yeah, except me. They would be surprised. That would be the first great, good step for you. What would happen after that? I told you it's the beginning of the negotiation. I know the feds. I know them. I know Ottawa. I know they like power. They want to control you. It will be less difficult with 80% to have a good deal, to be respected. But with the last question was about Danielle Smith. Danielle Smith said that she's with the feds, and so I don't believe that she will work for you guys to have the best deal after 80%. So that will be your decision after that, to go to the second step with that second referendum, and the real debate will be there. but you need to have more than 50% at the first referendum. And you don't know what Carney will do. Maybe he will come, no more equalization, maybe, but I'll be surprised. I'll be very surprised. But that will be the occasion. Then you will see the real politician, conservative and liberal. You will see their offer, and you'll be able to use that for the second referendum if it's not a good one. You'll see the real politician at that time, and that's why you need to have the biggest score at that referendum.
I think it would be fantastic to get up in the morning and see those kinds of results in the news, because I think the first step that we would do or should do after that is replacing the leader of the UCP with somebody that can be trusted to negotiate. And secondly, immediately following that, there should be a second binding referendum on independence.
I agree with both these gentlemen. My first reaction would be party like no tomorrow, and after the hangover wore off, I'd probably think a little more soberly. But I do want to point out one thing. Maxime said this several times, and it's a very important point, is that the negotiations won't succeed. And I think even with an 80% favorable vote, I don't think it'll succeed either. And the reason why is, a little while ago, I went through the mental process of what would the other side have to do to win me back? To say, okay, I'll stay in Canada. And you start going through the things that have to change. Get rid of equalization, a working Senate, probably elected, equal representation in the House, get rid of the Supreme Court as the supreme law of the land. All these things have to happen, getting rid of the C-class bills. And I do not see any path with any amount of pressure by any Ottawa-based politician that could accept them, because that means the end of the world as they know it. And they would rather take the chance of that, I think, than giving it all away willingly, giving Alberta what it wants, and then they've got nothing. Because now Alberta would be a proper province in a confederation, largely autonomous, except for a few powers held centrally. So I don't think there's any way on this earth that negotiation will succeed.
I don't think they can afford it. Right? I don't think they can sit down and do those negotiations and afford it. And I also don't think they would want the other provinces getting any ideas. So they would probably just let us go and then make life tough as an example to the others. But I think we would prosper.
Yeah, and I think they would say, let them have their referendum on secession. Quebec was not able. They won't be able. So that's a no-go.
But yeah, the hangover will be hard. Got to get through that one for sure. Max, we'll start with you on this one. And then, gentlemen, we'll see if you have any comments on this one. What is the reason Quebec wants to have independence? Wouldn't they lose Alberta's equalization money?
Yeah, they will. You'll be happy with that, no? The amount in the equalization formula that the federal government is giving to have-not provinces last year was $26 billion. Quebec last year received half of that, $13 billion. I said a couple of years ago, when I was elected as a Conservative MP in Parliament, I delivered a speech in Quebec in French, and I said that I'm not proud to be Quebecers because we are receiving equalization money. Quebec is not a poor province, and we must be proud, and all that must stop. Couple of years later, at an election, the leader of the Coalition Avenir Québec was elected as Premier of Quebec, Legault. During the campaign, he said, we can forget equalization. We can develop our own natural resources. As you may know, in Quebec, there's a moratorium on the exploitation of shale gas, and there's a lot of shale gas. So if we exploit that, Quebec government will have a lot of money coming from taxes from that. And so we can forget the equalization. But when Legault was elected, that was the opposite. He didn't want to do that, and we are still receiving equalization money. So what I'm telling you, now the leader of the PQ, he wants the PQ, he wants Quebec to be an independent country. And that's the question that he has. Yeah, but we receive $13 billion in equalization money. Quebec won't be able to be a successful country. And he's saying no. Half of that is coming, a lot of that is coming from our own taxes. It's money that our tax are going to Ottawa. But also at the same time, we have a lot of natural resources that we can exploit. So he's ready. So if Quebec is an independent country, that's good for you. We won't pay that anymore. You won't pay that anymore. But if Quebec is still in the Confederation, in Quebec, if you speak to Quebecers and you tell them that Quebec is a have-not province, they don't believe you. That Quebec is a poor province, they don't believe you. So we just need in Quebec a government that won't be a socialist government, that will have pro-free market policies, and they will raise a lot of money from economic growth. So equalization in Quebec, they're ready. They're ready to not receiving these $13 billion. That's their politicians who don't have the courage to act.
To build on Maxime's point, is this points out why equalization is not only unfair to Alberta, but it's actually a perverse incentive. Because think of what Maxime just said. Quebec has resources in the ground that it refuses to develop, that could use today, they could sell to the Americans, they can make lots of money, and because of equalization, they're not going to pursue them. Other resources Quebec has, minerals, hydroelectric, all these kind of things, more, better. The next door to the largest market in the world. Quebec has much of what the Americans want, just like we do. But we have this perverse incentive called equalization that drives this country into penury and bankruptcy because we're not willing to exploit what we've been given to us in our country.
And I just want to add on that. You know, you're not happy with the $26 billion that Western Canada is giving to Eastern Canada. But do you know why it's 26? It was last year, and it's always growing. Why it was $26 billion? Because of your Prime Minister, Stephen Harper. Stephen Harper, when he was your Prime Minister from Alberta, elected by you, he increased the equalization, he changed the equalization formula to increase the amount to buy votes in Quebec and in the maritime provinces. He did that. I was part of his government. What I'm telling you, the Conservative Party of Canada is pandering to Eastern Canada. That's it. If you want people in Ottawa that will fight for you in the Confederation, our candidates will do that.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem with Canada is we live in a nanny state. We got to get out of this socialist hell because it's destroying everything. I mean, I think back to when I was a kid, and we did have a free market. We weren't over-regulated. Now, all you got to do is go to the King's Printer website and look at how many regulations and acts there are to govern our every single move. We need to eliminate a ton of that stuff. That's the only way you're going to have freedom.
And let's not forget that Canada added an 11th province to the equalization welfare system. Ukraine. A lot of money heads that way too now. Yeah. Okay, so these are fun questions. I'm gonna do this one, and I'm gonna check your handwriting later, Max, because I don't know if you wrote this one. After separation, you will need a new government party. People's Party Alberta, led by Max B. You guys keeping that anonymous, I guess. Max, your last name's a D, right? Okay, so. Would he consider this?
Thank you very much, but no, I don't want to interfere in your own provincial affairs, and you'll be successful at the provincial level without a PPC. You have a good party here, and maybe the United Conservative will do the job if you stay in this party and fight in this party for having a first principle that will be make Alberta a sovereign country. That being said, though, I want your support at the federal level. I know that, we in Alberta, I've been, when a short anecdote. When I was a minister, first time elected, 2006, first time minister, a big portfolio, industry minister, and like you, I wanted less government, more deregulation, and I did a huge deregulation in the telecom industry. And a professor from McGill University said that Bernier is the best industry minister ever because he was successful to do that deregulation. And after that, a journalist from I think it was the Global Mail, wrote a piece on me, the new minister Bernier, and the title of that piece, and you can Google that, you'll find it. The title was Bernier, the Albertan from Quebec. From me, that was a compliment. Why? Because I share the same free markets and freedom, independence, less government than you. But because of these values in Alberta, you created the most job last year. That was in Alberta. Because of your economic success, and I know you can be more successful without Ottawa, but with your economic success, at the same time, there's a downside of that, a real downside for you. You created jobs, and people are coming to work here. People from New Brunswick, people from Quebec, people from Ontario. They're coming here to have a job because they cannot have a job in their province because of their socialist government with bad economic policies. But when they're coming here, they are bringing their ideology, their socialist ideology. And so they're voting for the left. You lost Edmonton at the provincial level. And now with all these people that are coming, you may lose also Calgary. So these people are not intelligent enough to know that they are coming to another province to have a job, but they are able to have that job here because of the good economic policies. They don't do the link. So it's very challenging for you. That's a point that you must consider.
So who's the one that wrote down 6 questions and numbered them beautifully? Who is that person? Right there? You get a free T-shirt on your way out, all right? Congratulations. That's a contribution and involvement that we love to see here in Alberta. But I'll ask one of them, because some of them have been answered already, all right? And this is going to be for Dennis. When can the RCMP be removed from Alberta? It was paid that it was said that it was being done, but sadly not fast enough, and they're still here. So during the transition planning, what's the police force planning there?
I'm not going to answer the policing question absolutely directly because all of the transition planning shares a common assumption. And that is that we have about 6 months runway, as it were, to do the negotiation with Canada and to start getting ready for things like policing and everything else. Then we have about 6 months until we actually declare day one of independence, where we're actually free of Canada and running our own country. So when you ask yourself how long will the RCMP be around, it's that 1 year. And we do simple stuff. I mean, we go to existing RCMP officers and say to them, hey, you want to join the Alberta force? We're going to try and get continuity. But I mean, these things don't take forever. We've got on good authority that many existing RCMP officers would happily join. And they want to stay in Alberta. They want to be successful. They want to be part of a better force. So I think we're going to have not much problem. Military, same thing. The military guys are great. One, they get really engaged, they get very passionate about it. They want to start buying F-35s, but that's a different problem. And we got to keep reminding them that we're not setting long-term policy with the transition plan. It's covering the period of time from when we win the referendum until our future legislature is in power and can start making the long-term policies. Now, I do also want to take one aside, with your permission. One thing I didn't talk about earlier is the Constitutional Conference. One of the papers in the transition plan is the design of the Constitutional Conference. It's also got how do we handle transitional authority. So it's obviously the UPC, or Danielle and the crew, as it were. They're the government in power after the first day. But we don't see them governing alone. There's other groups that have to be involved. And we see more of a council approach where we say, okay, we'll run the country until such time the Constitution is developed and ratified. And then the future legislature will take care of it. As far as the Constitutional Conference, it's not going to be a bunch of politicians behind closed doors or a bunch of lawyers arguing about fine legal points. It's going to be a public, publicized, open conference, probably made up of a number of different groups, ranging from just citizens like the ones in this room to some lawyers, some politicians, and so forth, who will look at the options, make a decision about what constitution is best for this country, and at that point, then the important part happens. It goes to you, the people, to decide whether you accept it or not.
Yeah, I don't know who's going to be at the Constitutional Convention, but I know who's going to stream it. Max from Freedom Calendar. So thanks a lot for being here, buddy. If you guys don't know him, go check him out. I'm pretty sure he'll stream it.
We have about 100 people watching online. And just so you know, we have some French-based podcasters actually watching this. So you know.
Fantastic.
So that kind of correlates to what Max was saying about the landscape, what is actually the landscape of the who is actually doing what over there. It's kind of cool to kind of confirm that, which is interesting. Anyways,
thank you. Now, Ben Trudeau, did you notice how he asked for permission to ask questions? It's in our blood, isn't it? Right? Yeah. Ben will tell you, just do it. Just do it. Don't seek permission. Right? Yep. Yeah. You can get his book in the lobby. Okay, so here's another good one. We'll go down the line here, starting with Ron, ending with Max. How do we reach out to the no? The people that are going for option one, the ones that are not paying attention to kind of the stuff we're talking about here. Is it worth reaching out to them? Do we got to focus somewhere else, or should we put more efforts there? And the last line here is, it seems like waving the Alberta flag is just making them dig in. So what are your thoughts there?
Well, I think there's a couple of categories maybe of the no side. There's the no that, are absolutely firmly, there's no way they want to leave socialist Canada or communist Canada. They want to be part of that little empire. The other group is, they're saying no right now because they're not really sure. And the thing that we have to help people get over is the fear of the unknown, because that's what's keeping a lot of people from saying, yeah, I think we should get out of here. So I mean, it's important, I think, just in your everyday conversations with family, friends, if you can, is just say, little things like, are you happy about the grocery prices this week? I don't know about you people here, but last week I was in Safeway shopping. Monday I went into the same Safeway. A lot of the prices had gone up 50% on food items. Like, that's ridiculous. I mean, we cannot sustain that. We're going to have people starving here before you know it. I mean, it's bad enough already at the food banks, but little conversations like that, because if you're your own nation, we control things locally. I mean, it's a lot easier to, if you have a problem, to show up in Edmonton at the legislature and complain about it than trying to show up in Ottawa. Look what happened with the Freedom Convoy. Let's block the highways. Let's block all the roads. You know, we'll get the military out if we have to, and we'll crush you. Well, you know what? You're not going to find that here in Alberta because, number one, we're a small country. You know, I think when you start looking around and asking around, everybody knows where everybody lives. So if the person running the country is your next door neighbor and they're doing a real bad job, then you know what? It's easy to talk to them and say, hey, you know, things have to straighten out here. And the people can do that. But having those conversations with your friends, just the little things, like I say, about the food prices, the price of gas. You know, I mean, we should be refining all our own gas here, and we shouldn't have any problems at all exporting it and getting it out of Alberta. We've got more roadblocks, you know, interprovincially than we do internationally, pardon me. So those are the things that you can have conversations about, you know, because very simply, you know, look at, you know, if BC wants to say no to a pipeline out to the coast, well, we say no to letting your goods come across Alberta to Canada. You know, you want you know, to use our highways. Well, I mean, we'll tariff every frickin' product you've got coming across our border, and you're going to pay a fortune to get them from the Alberta-BC border to the Alberta-Saskatchewan border. We have. I know Saskatchewan's going to be in there with us, so, you know, but just getting them across Alberta, we have a lot of bargaining power there. And, you know, when you bring these subjects up to people, a lot of that stuff that people never even think of, because they're not of the mindset of thinking how the country runs on a day-to-day basis. And I think that'll be important.
I note with some interest that Ezra Levant has done some polling, and we all don't trust polls, and we can't take Ezra's as being gospel either. But he did a pretty good set of polling, and roughly 60% of Albertans are very unhappy with what's happening to Alberta and the policies being imposed on us and so forth. But only roughly half of those believe that independence is a solution. That's sort of us. So we got to get to that other half. That's the group, that's a swing group. So that you can walk into those conversations, say, and you'll agree, things are in bad state. Alberta's being screwed. Now, let's talk about the way out. Do you see any path to get out of this situation within Canada? Do you see, as I said earlier, cleaning up the Senate, getting rid of the bad laws, all that kind of good stuff? Is there a way to make that happen in the current structure? Educate them on the structure. And people will begin to say, you know, and this is how the journey I followed, there is no way out within Canada. There's no plausible way out. They'll come to that conclusion. Now, you can't jump to that on the first conversation. You introduce it one step at a time. You ask them questions. Are they happy? Are they happy with grocery prices? Are they happy with how they're being treated? Are they happy with sending money to the rest of Canada? And have that conversation with them. Get them thinking about it. Give them the education pieces, whether it be the transition plan we're building, the Valley of Freedom document, or any of the many good sources out there. Get them thinking and get them to the point where they go, okay, you're right. There is no way out. We got to go independent.
So the two answers that you just told us, they're great. That's what you must do if you have a referendum on secession. So now it's the first step. I know we are here to speak about the second step. It's the first one. Your best argument to have somebody that is believing in this country is to read the question. Read the question. It's not about secession. And you spoke about food inflation. Tell them, you know, if we win that first one and we want to start the process, the first negotiation can be about food inflation. Do you know that we are paying twice the price for milk, poultry and eggs because of Quebec, because of the cartel in supply management. If we win that vote, our government will ask to end that cartel. And I'll be there with you. I will be there and ask to end that cartel. It's part of the policy since the creation of the People's Party. That's why I didn't win the leadership of the Conservative Party of Canada. I had the dairy cartel against me. They want to keep their privilege. It's time to end that, not only to have a deal with President Trump, but for our own consumers. So if you have somebody that somebody who believes in Pierre Poilievre and the country and believe in what Poilievre is saying, a vote to start the process is a vote to secession, just read the question.
Just add to that, you know what? One of the groups that we have to focus on are young people, because when I have conversations with like 18 to 20-year-olds, they know they've got no future here. They can't get jobs. Like, they have no hope to ever own property. You know, so that's a demographic that we have to include and make sure that they're out there talking about it as well, because that's the future of this country.
And Maxime, I'm not sure if you noticed just a week or so ago, Jason Kenney agrees with you now when it comes to supply management. Suddenly, it's popular.
When all these former politicians or politicians, it's easy for them to take a principled position when you are not elected. I took that position when I was elected. I took that position when I was running for the leadership of the Conservative Party, and I still have the same position. You have establishment politicians who don't have any vision, they don't have any convictions, and now it's easy for Kenney, it's easy for Kenney to tell you the truth. But how come he didn't do that or fight for that when he was your premier?
Okay, so this one will be for Max, and then you guys can kind of chime in if you like. What happens to people who get into politics with a genuine desire to make positive changes for their base? Then they seem to bend over and belly up to the trough.
Yeah, it's very disappointing first.
But Max, remember, C9's in effect, so the hate speech.
Yeah. It's very disappointing. Actually, you saw it. You know, you voted for Conservative, and they're so the same. You know, I call that the LibCon party. You can go and cross the floor, and now you're a liberal. The platform, it's almost the same. And you know, at the last federal election, the Conservative and people were telling our candidates, don't vote for the PPC because you split the vote. Now, when you split something, if you have an apple and you split the apple in two, you have two pieces of an apple. The Conservative and the People's Party were very different. You don't split the vote. But now, who's splitting the vote? It's the Conservative with the Liberal. They're the same. That being said, yes, you know, when you're a politician elected, you're very happy. You've been elected. Maybe that's the best job of your life, because if you're re-elected, you need 2 terms to have a very good pension. 8 years, you'll have a nice pension for your life, and that will start at, but it's better because it's not, when my dad was an MP, they had their pension. You're elected for 2 years, you didn't win your 3rd election, you have 30 years old, you have right now your pension for your life. We changed that, now it's at 65 years old. If you want that pension before, you're going to have some penalties. But you have a great pension after 8 years. And when you're elected, you want to, and your pension is based on your salary. If you're an MP, it's the same salary. But if you are the chair of the commission, you have a higher salary. If you are a minister, you have a higher salary. So if you're elected and you want to change things and you want to help your people, but that's not the position of the leader of your party, You want to please your leader, not your people, because you want to have a chance to become a minister, having a bigger salary and a bigger pension. So you need to have the courage of your conviction, and it can be costly, and they don't have that. So my advice to you, when you're speaking with a traditional establishment politician and that people is telling you what you like, and you don't want to be disappointed after that because you voted for that person and she did the opposite, if she tell you or he is telling you something that you like, and it's so important for you that you will vote for that person, and you want that person to keep that promise, just ask that politician, it's great what you just told me. Can you repeat it publicly? If the politician is saying no, you know what you have to do. You don't support that person. That person doesn't have any convictions, and they're just telling you what you want to hear right now.
And I agree with Max. The problem we've got right now, to put it very simple, is, you've probably heard that old saying, a rotten apple will spoil the barrel. What we've got right now is we've got a rotten barrel. And you can put as many good apples into it as you want. They are going to be spoiled because this system is set up to corrupt people.
And just to get on that thing, this is why the system can't be reformed. Think about the inertia. All those politicians who've been slaving away, kissing their leader's butt, just so they can get their nice pension, their nice money. And are they the ones that are going to push for getting rid of equalization? Are they the ones going to push for changing how the government runs?
Or changing the federal government.
Or changing the federal government or anything? They aren't going to do it. As Max said, this is the best job they've ever had, and you're paying for it.
And giving them an increase every year.
Give them money every year. And so that's why I get very passionate about this. When we do our new constitution, I want term limits and I want recall options.
And sorry, just add to what Dennis said, what I'd like to see is very little power for the government.
I would be a coconut, not an apple. It would be very difficult to get to me. I've got a pretty hard head here. One of the things that a lot of people bring up over the last couple of days, and I'll bring it up here too, is a leader for this movement. So the question here is, do we need a Charles de Gaulle? Viva Alberta, Liberté. Do we need a leader at this stage? Let's start with Ron.
I think right now, not having anybody really taking the main lead to this whole movement is a really good thing, because right now we've got like literally dozens of people promoting this. There's no one target for the government to focus on, and I think that is really important at this stage.
I know what Maxime's going to answer because he answered it yesterday, so I'm going to steal a bit of his thunder. Apologies. I think the leaders will appear. I think at this first question coming up, we don't need a leader. The grassroots is stronger. But I think after that, you will see people saying, good people standing up saying, I can get behind this, I can support this, and they will be the kind of people that lead us. Now, one thing I don't want is a dictator. I don't want some leader to say, well, but Dennis, you can't say those things about this or that. I want leaders who can say, Dennis, it's a free country, say your piece, we'll agree or disagree, and move forward. And that's why I'd reinforce when Matt and Bruce Party and I talk, we have completely different opinions on many topics. But you know what? We're friends. We listen to each other respectfully. We disagree respectfully, and we go for a beer. That's the kind of model you have to have.
Yes, nothing to add on my side. You're right about that. The leader will come, and now you have to do your jobs. And that's great that you have a lot of leaders, because in Quebec, when we are speaking about, the PQ is speaking about the independence right now, before the election, people from the left are saying, you know, I like your ideas. You know, maybe I can support an independent Quebec, but the PQ, you're a bit socialist. You're not a real free market political party, so I cannot support you. That's a very interesting question, because when you create your country, the PQ and the answer to that is to, you know, the first thing is to create the country. If you're leftist, or, you know, if you're a conservative or a free market guy, you must vote for the creation of the country. And after that, together, we will have that debate, and you'll elect your leftist government or your right-wing government. The debate will come after. So right now, you have people that are promoting that maybe are more a little bit to the left. Other are libertarian. So, and it's great because you have different people that can reach to different people and promoting your independence and promoting your position. But after that, yes, the leader will come.
One of the things that's really important for everybody around, like when we create a new nation, you're starting with a blank piece of paper. You can build whatever you want. So I think one of the most important things is I don't necessarily believe in political parties. I would like to see individual Albertans representing their ridings and not having to account to anybody but their constituents. That's what I would ideally like to see. You know, same as having if we have a Senate, your senators would be the same thing. They would be individuals. They're not part of any party. And you know what? They represent their constituents, and we would have to govern by working together and being in agreement on things.
And we'll be hosting some more events coming up in the near future before the vote. Dennis and Matt and Bruce Party will continue that conversation that we're doing. And I do have to tell you, watching them hang out, have beer is fun. It's fun. The three of them together, it's awesome. It's kind of neat to see that. So thanks for having me there. We're going to get to a couple more questions and we've got to wrap up. Again, if your question wasn't asked, it's going to be scanned and given to Max, and we'll address it in the future. Ben, how have we been doing tonight? You enjoying yourself? Yeah. We're going to go to our question king, or prince, or whatever we want to call you, because we're up to 8 now. So we'll ask his 8th question. If we are able to separate, what money do we get to start off with? So before I throw it to the panel, are you talking currency or figures? So currency. It's a currency question. We'll start with Dennis.
So this was handled in the Value of Freedom. It's being handled in the Banking and Currency white paper. The guts of it is, it sort of depends a little bit on how badly the Canadian dollar craters. It's going to crater. It's a question of how hard we drop. The working model that was present now for the last year is that the default would be moving to a U.S. currency to start with supports for people transferring money out of Canada that's needed to do so, and then build an Alberta currency in sort of the fullness of time that would be based and backed by things like oil reserves and would not be the fiat currencies we see all over the world. They would be backed. Now, that's, again, not part of transition planning specifically, but there are people that think, and I think they're a lot smarter than me on this, is the Canadian dollar may drop like a freaking stone because the economic engine of Canada is gone. Their debt will get repriced. Their bonds will get repriced. They won't have money to pay for things. And all of a sudden, the world looks at Canada, the rest of Canada, as a bad risk, something that they don't want their money in. And that causes currency flight, and ultimately that would push us very quickly into converting to U.S. dollars before that happened.
Yeah, I think it's going to tank pretty hard. Keep your mortgage in Canadian funds, maybe. But everything else that's coming in, we'll have a new currency for that one. Okay, so this one comes up all the time as well. We kind of touched on it a little bit here. And all of us will go ahead and answer this one. We love our American neighbors, but don't want to unite as a country with them. Some of us don't trust the UCP since day one. Who can we Albertans trust or vote for to take us through this? Let's go ahead with Ron.
Well, I think that depends entirely on who's running, because it's like I say, it's gonna ultimately be up to the individual running for whatever party. I mean, if we have, Independence Party MLAs elected, and you've got UCP members elected that believe in independence, you know what? We're going to work together and get the job done. It doesn't matter, because that's what we have to focus on. That's the most important thing. So it's not going to be a matter of just, let's pick a party, and unless, there's, something demonstrated that that party is going to take us over the finish line. And then you can choose which party you want.
How do you become that party?
Sorry, what was that, Vicky?
How do you
How do
become
you become that party that takes us over the top? When we know for sure, it's kind of like saying, in my opinion, UCP right now are putting the faith in the UCP right now, even with an independence candidate, if they can get nominated. Even with that, we know that it's been so corrupted that it's like expecting us to have power to end equalization here right now. So how do you get a power in a position, or a party in a position right now that can give faith to the population to vote for them and put them in power?
So let me just rephrase the question quickly for the audience online, because they didn't hear anything you said. They think that we just lost our minds and stared in the back of the room most of the time. She's basically, how can you trust the system now to create a party that's going to work when it's so corrupt, and the system and the establishment is holding all the power, controlling the nominees, and make all this decisions outside of like a democratic process? Basically, there you go.
I think the simple answer to that is we have a party in existence. It's called the Independence Party. Our primary goal is to get us out of Canada. The other thing is, and this is something that's concerned me personally. I mean, I don't know if anybody else has thought this way or not, but we have a country that has incredibly weak politicians for the most part. None of them stand on their convictions. Well, I shouldn't say none. There's probably one or two. Hey, Max? You're welcome. But, I mean, this is why Canada's in the position it's in, because, if you've ever heard the saying, weak men bring on hard times. And this is what we're seeing, because we've had, like I say, some incredibly weak leaders, not just in this country, but, provincially, municipally. Like, it runs the gamut where we've had weak people making the decisions because nobody else has wanted to take a part in running things because they just can't be bothered. You're busy with your life. And we have to get out of that mindset, for one, and we have to get people that are in there doing what we elect them to do. And when I go back to the concern that I have about weak people, I mean, I've heard that there's a fair number of UCP MLAs that quietly believe in independence. Well, if you're not strong enough to stand up to your convictions, because they could very easily stand up, and if they get kicked out of their party, they can come over to our party.
I'm actually more encouraged on this score than perhaps others. Danielle Smith, I think last week she was in Red Deer, I think, and there's a question that wasn't televised where they said, like, who in the room supports independence. A lot of UCP people in the room. And I gather from people who were there, about 75% of the people stood up. So those people are working within the UCP to push things where they need to go. I also agree with my esteemed colleague, there's an option there. If the UCP blocks it, stops it, or makes it miserable, guess what? Those MLAs can cross the floor. Apparently that's fine, and stand as independent Albertans. So I think we have ways through. As for people and individuals, I mean, I work with one, Keith Wilson. He's awesome. He's a lawyer. He's smart as all get out. He understands politics. He understands people. Guys like him, there's other ones around. Eva Chapayak. I mean, brilliant lady. I mean, these are people that are stepping up and making themselves visible and who I would trust to go deal with the Americans. So we've got them. We can get them there. We're Albertans after all.
Just keep in mind, 4 of the last 5 Conservative premiers didn't finish their term. So Albertans are very, very quick at pulling a trigger if they have to, and it might be 5 out of 6. We'll see where that goes. You guys are really cool with that. That's one of the only provinces that actually do that. And when you're not happy, you guys change it. So keep that up. We'll start with Max. We'll come down the panel here. We're getting close to the end, so we're almost wrapping up. Why even have discussions and MOUs about future projects until the separation vote is complete? Why even go down that path? Max?
I think you must give the last chance to the federal government, to Ottawa. You know, just be honest. Since the creation actually of your province, you were not an equal partner. You were a subordinate. And now you want to be strong and say to Ottawa, it is your last chance to give us your best offer. So you need to have that negotiation after that referendum, and you'll see. And also to show to your friends and family that are not sharing your position on the independence, look, we did our best. You saw the real government in Ottawa, what they think about us. So it's important to have that negotiation after a vote. I just want to add about the question before, who will be the best, and my understanding of the question was, who will be the best person to negotiate a free trade agreement with Trump or negotiate with Trump? You know, the referendum in 1995 in Quebec, the Secretary of State in the U.S. government, were saying that we are with Ottawa. We believe in a united country. If Quebec becomes a country, that will be the end of the free trade agreement. That was a strong argument for the no side. And the free trade agreement for Quebec is very important, and like for you also, more than 60% of the goods are going to our sell and export to the U.S. So right now, for you, that's the opposite. I understand that the Secretary of State will say, you know, I believe in an independent Alberta. That being said, who will negotiate? It is important, but the most important is, do you have some good arguments to be strong at the table? And you have all the arguments. You can say to the U.S., you don't open your borders, no more oil, no more gas, no more potash, no more. You have all the natural resources that Trump needs. President Trump can say, yeah, we don't need Ottawa, we can do it. No, that's not true. Look at the data, look at what you are exporting, the natural resources that you are exporting in the U.S. They need it. So you will be in a strong position to have a good free trade agreement and a good deal with the U.S., I believe, better than Quebec in 1995.
There was a while ago that I would agree with Maxime around the MOU. I thought this was Danielle taking a principled stand to make a last attempt to settle with Canada on a reasonable deal. My thinking has matured. I no longer believe that. I think this is a cynical ploy to string out and delay the process, to take the wind out of the sails of independence, to saddle us with a deal that brings ever more control from Ottawa into our lives, and it's generally not a good thing. So I am no longer one that says, yeah, give them one more chance. They had those chances for the last 60 years. We're done now.
And I agree. The way I see it is I used to look at Jason Kenney as kind of a snake oil salesman, and I think maybe he's been teaching Danielle some of his tricks. Because all these MOUs and these discussions are for is just like Dennis says, it's to take the wind out of the sails of the independence movement. It's to make people feel like they're not achieving the goal that they've, decided or the path that they've decided that they want to take, and they're going to do everything they can to discourage everybody who's for independence. Don't let them do that. Stick to your guns. Keep doing what you're doing. I mean, there is an urgency when dealing with the United States, because I'll tell you what, I would rather deal with businessman Donald Trump than I would if the Democratic Socialist Party of America gets in. Like, can you imagine another Joe Biden getting in there into power in the U.S. or Kamala Harris or any of the Democrats down there? I don't think, number one, I don't think they would even recognize Alberta as a nation. I don't think they'd negotiate with us. At least with Trump and the Republicans in power, we have a chance to get things done, but it's got to be done quick.
I just want to add, my answer was an answer based on an MOU or an agreement after your referendum. That was my answer. But for the MOU that you have right now with the federal government, I agree 100% about what you said. Yeah, that was just something to delay and telling you that, we can have a good agreement with them. And by the way, it's not a good agreement. You have a strong condition, and I don't think that you'll be able to build that pipelines. So my answer was after the referendum to have a negotiation with Trump or with the federal government. But before what she did with that agreement, I agree 100% of what you said.
Fantastic. And if Biden was in power, we just have to make ice cream, and we'll get a deal done. Double chocolate chip, I think it is. So this will be the last little comment. This is not even a question, and then we'll have each panelist kind of close up here with a final statement. This is such an exciting time to be alive. Who agrees with that? You gentlemen are making me confident we can do this. Thank you so much. So thank you for that comment. So we'll start with Ron, and we'll work our way down with our closing statements.
Well, I just want to thank everybody, first off, for taking the time out to come tonight and listen. I think it's been really important. And I mean, just with the people in this room, you talk to 2 or 3 people each, and you guys are going to be able to get the message out to hundreds and hundreds of people initially, which will spread into thousands. If you just have those conversations to, talk to people and let them know, what, we can have a better place. And we can have freedom, because we are not going to have it for much longer. I mean, you've got Carney already setting up a police state. Once that's completed, we're not going to have the ability to have a referendum. That's one of the things that worries me with these delays by Danielle Smith, because she's obviously working with Carney to stop this. Well, under his rule, they can come up with all kinds of things and ways to prevent us from ever having or holding a referendum in the first place. And that would lead to some really, really ugly and bad results for this province. So, we want a peaceful solution to all this. We don't want to see, destruction of the destruction of Alberta, because we have to fight to get our way out like the U.S. did.
So echo the thoughts of thanking you all for coming out and talk to your friends and neighbors. That's a good thing. But I also asked for one other thing. That is to get involved. We're writing the transition plan. I asked earlier for if you have specialty expertise or know people with specialty expertise, please go to our website and let me know. I read every email we get, and we'll contact people back, and assuming there's a good fit, we'll use them, because we need everyone's knowledge and talent to make these plans as durable as possible. They will get scrutinized up the wazoo. Every little hole in them will be torn apart. Everything we get wrong will be held up as tainting the whole thing. So we need all of you to help us make it as good as we humanly can. And other than that, thank you all for coming out. Thank you for working as you do. And I'm certainly pleased and delighted and honored to continue working with all of you.
Yes, for me, it was a privilege to be with you tonight. And thank you, Jason. Thank you for having me. And my principal message for you is this is the time for action. This is your time. Show to Canadians that you are serious and you're fed up and you want real changes. So my advice would be go out there, speak about what you believe with passion, with conviction, and I'm pretty sure that you will win and you will surprise a lot of Canadians. So it's time for action, and always you can count on the People's Party to be on your side. And if you want to have more details about our policy on federalism, go on our website, peoplespartyofcanada.ca, click on policies. We have 21 policies. Click on the one on federalism. What I said today, it's based on that. We are with you with that referendum, and we believe that you can be successful, but the time is for action right now, like they said. And, you know, I believe that a lot of people would be surprised the morning of the 20th of October. Thank you, and have a nice evening.
Don't be afraid to go out and show that you're a proud Albertan, and you're an Albertan first.
And I want to thank our panel as well, because last minute we were able to add 2 people to the panel. So Dennis and Ron, thank you so much for picking up my call and saying, yes, I'll be there. Both of them drove, well, one from Calgary, one from Edmonton to be here tonight. So thank you both for doing that. And Maxime, thanks for coming from Quebec and sharing some of your knowledge with us and excitement of what we're doing. I also have to thank my family because without Paula and my boys, this isn't possible. So I want to thank that. Also check out our, thank you. I also check out our vendor back there, Talolicious. She does some great work and great products. We use it, especially for the mosquito stuff. Check out the PC table. And like you said, if you want to show your pride for Alberta, we got lots of that merch over there. And you get a shirt, sir, for sure. Absolutely. We'll get you some gear. But thank you all very much for being here. Really appreciate it. Much love. God bless.
And thanks for the 126 people watching online as well, too. So thank you very much for tuning in. It was very awesome to have you there. Tomorrow we, with the folks from Let's Talk Alberta, will be in St. Paul. They're going to have Layton Gray and the band Trudeau, especially Layton Gray and St. Paul will be very interesting with the First Nation folks down there. And also on Friday, I will be with the folks from... I will be with Kathy Flat in Edmonton. I will stream her town hall meeting in Edmonton. That will be another piece of the cake. So I'd like to thank you very much for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Share the crap out of this video. I'm almost 9 subscribers away from getting 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. So if you want to share with your friends, that would be very awesome. Very appreciated. So thanks very much for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow at 7.